This thing with the McHouse McDefendants, yes, I said that, has just every time I think that it just cannot get any more ridiculous, it does. And that's because there are some elements behind it that are ridiculous. We're talking about Turtleboy, aka Aiden Carney, and the fact that Tim Pool was contacted by the McHouse McDefendants to say, don't you do it. We're just going to give you a gentle little warning because we don't like Turtleboy, aka Aiden, aka Dr. Turtleboy, aka Dr. Daddy, whatever you want to say, we don't like him. He's saying bad things about us on the playground. We think he's a bully. We think that he kicks our toys into the briar bushes, and we want you to constrict him to a very small little playground so we can go out and do our thing. There's reasons behind that. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not law enforcement. I'm a forensic tarot profiler. I look at people, I look at things, I break it down. And today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be breaking down this situation with Turtleboy and the McHouse defendants. McDefendants, there you go. If you haven't been following Aiden Carney or Turtleboy, maybe you need to jump on over there and start. Now, there's a lot of controversy there. I'm just going to tell it like it is. There are some people that love him, some people that don't love him. That doesn't mean that he should not be given any rights. That doesn't mean that constitutionally he should be squelched. It has nothing to do with anybody liking him or not. It has everything to do with he has the right to say what he feels. Freedom of speech, that's what the USA is based on, our freedom, constitutionally. Incidentally, I get the same thing. So it's not thing, and I say that because, well, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but it doesn't make any difference. It's all about where we are going with this, because guess what? He is setting precedents, legal precedents, not only in that county, not only in that state of Massachusetts, but could be even nationwide. This is that important. And if you're not following, you don't think it's important, maybe you need to think again. And especially if you live in Massachusetts. I want to look at a few things, my darling. We have the Big Book of Bull. You're used to seeing this with other cases, but now Turtleboy has joined the ranks. And here's what I want to say, because many of you who don't watch me or don't watch me often, I always like to do what is called a SNA. What is that? It's a social network analysis. So we have a little circle here, and yes, I'm using green because of Turtleboy. And then we do this, and then we do this. I like to do this because it helps to figure out, and what does that look like? It looks like a target, and that's why I like to call this a target analysis. Why? Because this is what you do. First of all, we have Turtleboy in the center. He's the center of things. Now, quite frankly, if you were doing this as a tree, right? Well, let's use our little marker here. We're doing this as a tree. Some people like to do a tree analysis. I think that's okay too. However it makes you comfortable. But here's the interesting thing. At the root of this tree is not Turtleboy, and it is not Karen Reed. It is Officer John O'Keefe. Why? Well, first of all, it was Turtleboy, aka Aiden, who brought forth the story of Karen Reed. Say anything you like. I would never have heard of it if it weren't for Aiden. I don't know Aiden. I've never met him. I don't have a beef with him. So here's the thing. If it weren't for John, we would not have heard about Karen Reed. John is for sure, but John is the real victim here. If it weren't for John, we wouldn't hear about Karen. Well, who brought this out? Aiden, Turtleboy. But then it starts branching off. You see this? We have the O'Keefe family. Then we have the cops. We have lawyers. Right? And it just keeps going on. That's what you do over here. Now, this is set up a little differently because we also have Karen Reed in here. But there's another player. And that is Tim Pool. Tim Pool has millions of people following him, and that's not an exaggeration. Now, the McHouse defendants, we've got Jen and Matt. We have Higgy Baby. We have all these things going on here. And you can fill in the blanks. I'm not going to take in the time. But how to do this is you figure out the connection that each person has with each situation, and then it's almost as though you can back into an investigation. Now, there's a lot of very good legal points that many of the lawyers have come up with. Melanie Little, lawyer loophole lawyer, brother counsel, probably Emily D. Baker if she was talking about this, the defense diaries. I can go on and on and on. Mark Betterow, and he hasn't said anything because I think that he is directly involved now. Tim Bradle, both attorneys for Aiden Carney. But there is a certain mindset within the legal community that I agree with. And that is by, first of all, telling Tim not to bring Turtleboy onto his podcast because of and then they listed all of things that they accuse Turtleboy of doing, and frankly, he's not been found guilty of anything. Not yet. And I don't feel so. I don't feel he will be. But they're jumping ahead of themselves. But there's one thing that I want to talk to you about today. And that's why I got out the big book of Bull. Because for me, my darlings, and we're going to look at the cards here in just a minute, but for me, my darlings, there's one thing that I want to think and say. I can say everything that they want to say. And there's a certain mindset that goes behind someone who wants to squelch the ability of someone wanting to say something. Now, there is that thought process of sometimes you do that when you're innocent. I'm not here to point the finger at anybody. I have my opinion. I'm not going to express it here. But what I'm going to tell you is this. When you look at this particular case, and we are approaching a 1-year anniversary with Karen Reed, and that is for her acquittal, and that was June 18th. "17 days till that anniversary. The state of Massachusetts footed the bill for a very, very expensive DUI or OUI or however they say it. But I want you to go back and look at all the parties. I want you to look at Karen. I want you to look at Aiden, aka Turtleboy. And then I want you to look at the McHouse McDefendants. What do you see that is a common denominator within all of these? Well, first of all, they all have a story, and they stick to it. Or do they? Because for me, when I look at this to determine, not a legal summary, but for myself to determine who I believe and who I would not believe, there's one word, and that is consistency. Who is consistent within the story of what happened to Officer John O'Keefe that fateful night of January 29th of 2022. It almost feels like sometimes those people forget about what that is. They're going so hard after the players to accuse them, to perhaps get everyone's mind off what they really are thinking about them and putting that on, how dare somebody say something about me. Consistency. Consistency in this story. Look at, during the 2 trials for Karen Read, look at the testimony, the consistency, and how in this last trial the prosecution had to come back and say, well, no, wait a minute, we didn't mean that about this particular time frame. We meant it about this, and we meant it. We meant it about this particular thing, and especially about the 227 search for Haas Long. Consistency is where you need to be fitting this all through. Because now you see this, and we all make jokes. You know, the joke, well, did Jen get a refund on those dolls that she got from Temu? Because I don't think that they really worked. And quite frankly, if that happened, they certainly didn't. Those things have a tendency to backfire. I'm going to read the cards, but I wanted to share this with you because this is so important, I believe, for everyone to know that even if you're not familiar, back up a minute, and I want to point out the possible injustice or the unjust part of it all. The unjust part of saying, well, you're allowed to have your opinion, as long as it's my opinion. And unfortunately, that happens throughout many, many times in cases. But this case from Canton, Massachusetts, coming from Canton, Massachusetts, has been so egregious, so wild. The manipulation of the law is so disgusting. And then you have the prosecutor's office and perhaps the troopers, and then you have the cops, and you have all this, and then everything has branched out into everything, and there's more, and there's this little nucleus of people that seems to have lost their popularity, maybe. Let's read the cards. Here we are back again, and you know, if it weren't for the pain that these people have felt and continuing to felt, I have to tell you, I kind of miss that. I kind of miss that daily, getting up, looking at we have never seen a courtroom drama like this, and thank God for the legal team of Karen Read and for Aidan Carney. Mark Betterow, I believe, I'm going to say, was rooked. And he was rooked because a motion for a pro hoc vice, something that is like, it's not a big deal. Lawyers get it all the time, but Auntie Bev, Judge Beverly Cannoni, denied it. That was a blow. That was a blow. She should not have denied it. But you know what? He brought a lot to it anyway. And I'll tell you what, he's been very good for Aiden. And Tim Bradle. Another dream team. Thank God that they have good lawyers there. I missed these cards. I haven't really read with them since the trial. But we're gonna start out with the House of Zelda. And I want to know where this has gone. Where this is going. It's all about timing, and I agree with that. The wealth and abundance, I have to ask, who is paying for the McHouse McDefendants? This is going to get pretty expensive. All of this, filing and trying to squelch and all this other stuff. Overlooked evidence. I believe we have definitely overlooked evidence with John O'Keefe. Let me rephrase that. Let's keep sight of what this really truly is all about, the root problem. Who did that to John? Who put him out on the front lawn of a fellow police officer? Who tried to make it as though it didn't happen? Karen Reed is factually innocent. Doesn't make any difference. She was found innocent twice. Aiden Carney, they dropped a bunch of charges for him, and there's going to be more things come out too. Cosgrove is getting to the point where now he's just really kind of admitting that this whole thing is more or less civil than criminal and get it over with. That's the prosecutor that's against Aiden Carney. I believe that's correct. But there's some things that have been overlooked. But the wealth and abundance, I'm going to tell you truthfully. When Aiden comes out of this, Massachusetts, get your checkbook out. I really feel that the attorneys for Aiden Carney used to be a little saying in the 60s, sock it to me. Well, I think they're going to sock it to Massachusetts. It's all about timing, and that is totally crucial. Because you see, every step that these McHouse McDefendants take, it seems as though they trip going up the ladder, and then they fall maybe down a couple of rungs and hit their chins. But I have to ask myself, and this is just a question I'm putting out there, not accusing anyone of anything. Deep down inside, and I know attorneys really don't feel this way, but I can't help it but wonder. I have to ask, deep down inside, do you think the McHouse McDefendants attorneys, do you think that they really believe in what they're defending? This is a high dollar. This is a high dollar. This is a high dollar situation. Do you really feel as though maybe sort of kinda these people, I mean, look at the big money cases that they've been involved with. Is this based on a name? Is it based on, okay, give me $5,000, give me $10,000, I'll write a letter for you? I've always wondered. I wonder that. I know it's not supposed to happen, but I wonder. I can't help it. Well, the energy, my camera just went out. So my darlings, okay, so here we are. It is all about timing, because I'm going to tell you, I do believe that there's something about to burst. And now the communications between the DA and everybody. Everybody wants them, the McHouse defendants. I know, I'm going to quit saying that. Those defendant people are now wanting to squash that. Do you think that they really see the forest for the trees? There's another pathway ahead. We're going to get into that in a minute. Here is the Mythic Tarot deck, and believe me, my darlings, we haven't seen this. We read a lot with this for Karen Reed. What is this? So, what's happening now? I want to look into what is happening now for these people. Isn't that amazing? I'll tell you what's amazing in a minute. Okay? First of all, that Wheel of Fortune. I've got to get my little pointer out. Meet Moisha. That is my tarot pointer. It's actually a Torah pointer. This Wheel of Fortune. Now, this can be a card that sometimes really has a dark side. Most readers won't tell you that. I'm telling you that. This Wheel of Fortune is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the luck of the draw, but sometimes it will help us distinguish what part of the wheel that we are on, because you see we have somebody there hanging on for their dear life, and you see somebody there is just getting ready to cut everybody loose, and you got to do the best you can. Well, in life there are waves that go up and down, and I think that Aiden and Karen have had enough of waves, and especially now with Aiden. I know that they don't like it that he had a fundraiser and he made a lot of money in the fundraiser. Well, he's got to pay for attorneys, and attorneys are not going to do it for free. They're expensive. I'm going to say Aiden's wheel is starting to look up, and it's starting to come up again. In the original tarot deck, there are 4 elements here in the card. And I'm going to tell you what, I do not believe that anything will go unnoticed at this point. Be a watchman. Watch how they're writing things. Watch. I do believe, and this chick here represents Jennifer McCabe. I do believe that for her, money is no object in her mind. She will throw money at whatever. And you see, this is my theory. I don't have the fact, but I'm going to give you the theory because, this is entertainment purposes only, and, you might as well be entertained, right? But my theory is this. She would prefer to throw money at this particular cause to keep Aiden, Turtleboy, silent than to find out who really did this to John O'Keefe. You have to think about that. She's in this particular, she's sitting on the throne. She's always felt she sat on a throne. In some cultures we call the toilet the throne. Okay. In this regard, she's willing to do whatever it takes. But there's a time that the money runs out. And then what do you do? Because they don't have these fundraisers. Now they've made money, but I don't see that they're going to be able to handle it. Are they mortgaged to the hilt? Because look, they've got several people that they're sitting in the row. This devil card. This is actually a pan that you see here. And look at the 2 people here. But this devil card represents the sign of a Capricorn, and that is Turtleboy Aiden. Aiden is a Capricorn. I believe his birthday, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe his birthday is December 26th. I remember that because my son's is December 25th. But this devil card works in Aiden's favor, because this devil card always represents somebody who gets fixated on, can be, now I'm not talking about this in a negative way, okay, but can be obsessed with and almost addicted to. And quite frankly, that works for him and what he's doing in the journalist business. And yes, I consider him to be a journalist. They call him the blogger. Well, okay. But I do consider that he is a journalist. When you write in the journal, it's a journalist. There you go. But this whole thing encompassing him works for him. And the timing card right about this, oh yeah, his timing is right on. Now the Four of Pentacles is basically saying, hold on, there's another pathway coming ahead. Hold on, something more in this month of June. And I want to say maybe around the 4th of June, something more is about to happen. I need another row of these. I don't know about you, but I do. Pardon me. I do. I need another row of these. There's the King of Pentacles, the Five of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles, and the Two of Swords. Wow, lots of pentacles here. That's money. So the King of Pentacles coming about. I'm going to say, now this is very earthy, a very earthy sign. And I'm going to say that represents Aiden because he is the king. King Turtleboy. There you go. Why? Well, because thy lady doth protesteth too much. But I'm also going to say he who has the money rules. And that will be Turtleboy. Not quite yet, but it's not over. This Five of Pentacles, an amazing card. Originally, it's a woman, and it looks like a young man who is on crutches, and they're not in a very good way. But you see, we've got somebody here that feels like, well, that might be time to hide, and that's not Aiden. That is sitting on top of the card that I would say represents Jennifer. They're going to get to the point where they're going to feel the money crunch, and this high-power attorney firm is not going to look at them and say, okay, well, that's okay. We believe in you so much that we're just going to do this pro bono from now on. No, 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 no. They're walking the line, and they know it. There's a legal strategy within this. I'm not going to say it because sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell you that this Page of Pentacles tells me that money is coming to Aiden. It's on top of his card, and it's all about timing. Money is coming. This Two of Swords. It is an air element. It's all about our thought process. It's all about conversation and text and emails, phone calls, and even copies of demands and what they expect now. The one thing about this Two of Swords card is that this is the time now where it's time for your third eye to start opening, where you can see beyond the mindset of the McDefendants, right? You see here, it looks like there might be a little controversy between two parties. That would be Aiden in the middle. Crossing swords. They're not in alliance. Ugh, how I love that. I need two more of these. I need two more of these. And then we'll get out. Travel. I think they're traveling between counties for sure. Unexpected news is coming. Let's take 3. Abandoned. You know, I don't see a case being abandoned, but I do believe that there's going to be some type of situation where it feels like, to a certain degree now, again, I'm not a lawyer, but could the McDefendants be cut loose from something? Could they themselves experience some type of, well, we're just going to let this go, or we're just going to throw this out? Watch. We have to be watchmen now, because there's unexpected news that is coming. Travel is significant, and I believe it is the travel between the counties. That came up. My thumb hit it, but we're going to talk about it because this is a card of indecision now. It's not on Aiden's part. You know, they're coming out big and bold. I think only because they have to. They're concerned. And the more they do, you see the pushback that they get. I'm not going to call this the Streisand effect or the Afro Man effect. I'm going to call this the turtle effect, because I think this is morphing into a situation where there's something else happening. And look at the people that we have here. This is Brian Albert. He is a Virgo. This is Jennifer McCabe. She is an Aquarius, I believe. I think so, if my mind. These two are not Karen, but they are related in a fact where they are 2 women behind the scenes of Brian and Jennifer. And they're giving ideas to these people that they're taking and giving to this law firm, hoping that they can throw things to the wall and it'll stick. This is a card of frustration, and I do believe that Brian Albert is so frustrated. You can look at him. He's changed. In 3 years. 3 years. Look at how he has changed. And should we talk about Higgy Baby? The fact that it looks like he's been taking Slim Slow. We used to call Slim Fast, Slim Slow, because, you know, it doesn't work as fast as it does. But there's something going on there. There's some changes. And I've always said, watch people. Watch how bodies, minds, experience changes people. Are they being haunted from within? I'm just going to hypothetically say this. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But what if you had a body on your front lawn and you're worried about what someone said about you? Why don't you just find out who did it? For John's sake, for the family of John, for the closure. Could one of these women be John's mother? Absolutely. Could another one of these women could be Carrie, could be whatever, but listen, they are there. It could be Nicole. We don't know, because at this point, there's a lot of people that have their 2 cents, including me. Let's get out a couple more cards. They're not good. Oh, the spades in the cards, my darlings, and cartomancy are not good. The first one is this, and I can see it right now, and it's not funny. I'm not laughing at Jennifer, but the situation, the cards, and the way they're laying out is kind of funny. That's what I'm talking about. On top of her comes this card of worry. General worry. concerns, and definitely concerns about money. Concerns not only what people think, where they go, how they act. Then we have this card lying on top of these women beside Brian Albert, and this is a card of interference. Third party interference, to be exact. A third party interfering and basically projecting their opinions on things. Now, does that make that worse? Kind of. You know how it is when you're trying to do something and you have Uncle, Fred from the AutoZone come in and try to give their 2 cents on something that's going on, and he doesn't really know too much about it, and yet he's an expert. Well, I think they've got this going on. They have their own little upset. Maybe even some thoughts that seem torturous. This is a card of isolation, loneliness. Brian Albert is very concerned about things. Maybe he's not saying it. It's kind of hard to be the tough guy. This is a card about trying to hope things will get better. And ironically enough, it's a card about loneliness and thinking about prison. Now, am I saying he's going to go to prison? No, I didn't say that. But I think that he's within his own little mindset of prison. There's going to be a childlike new beginning for Turtleboy. Childlike meaning happy, giddy, not so much upsetting. And then we have this 4 of Wands. That's all about the home. It's all about family. That's Aiden. Putting it together, defending the home. I'm sorry, that's not the 4 of Wands. Let's talk about the 5 of Wands. This is all about, my bad, it reflected, and I'm trying to not look through the viewfinder of the camera. This 5 of Wands now is conflict. And yes, you know what? It is the same in some regard because he is defending his home. He's defending his right. He's defending his family. He's doing best he can with what he's got to work with. And honestly, sometimes when you have the truth, right? What's this? The 4s in cartomancy, and you've heard me say that many times, are not really good cards. They're that card that basically you're like teeter-tottering on the edge. This is a card of hurt. Of course, Turtleboy is hurt. Look what they've done. This is from the past. It affects the present, which definitely affects the future. This is a card of bitterness and resentment. If he feels that way, I think he's justified. I have always said, and you can go back and look at my readings, I do believe that there is a divine appointment with Aiden Carney and Karen Reed. And I believe that they've been set forth to make sure that everyone sees. Do you remember, it was a long time ago when we first found out that the feds were involved? And people were writing to me and saying, why don't the feds just go in and arrest these people? Why don't they? And I said, oh, no time. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you, I don't want anybody hurting. And Turtleboy and Karen have really taken a lot on. Both hurt in their own particular ways. Very sad. But they've stood and they've marked their territory and they're going forward. And I believe if the feds would have stepped in and arrested people and done everything, we wouldn't know what we know about what has happened in these investigations and in others. It would have not been brought out. We would have never known. And that's the reward of patience. That's what we have to do, is be very patient. And I believe Turtleboy and Karen have been. But this is now about Turtleboy. So what I'm seeing in this is this. Money is definitely an issue with the McHouse McDefendants. Eventually, it will become more of an issue. I also believe that these requests to the court, this court is going to get a little mad because I believe they're coming across as petty. And you know what petty does. Remember in the beginning we talked about stories and the consistency. Now, there are two things between being constant and consistent. Constant is the continuing saga. But consistency is not only part of the constancy, but it is part of the remaining true. And like that country song, it's my story and I'm sticking to it. What we see now, watch. The popularity is beyond worldwide now for Turtleboy. And while Karen is going off in her department and her own path, this really isn't about Karen as much as it is Turtleboy. They've gone after him. They never want him to bring anything to light. And I say, my last question to you, my darlings, is this. Who killed John O'Keefe? That's what we all want to know.